Hello Taurus, my name is Keith Haswell and I'm your astrologer for the moment. And it's nice to have this opportunity to be able to talk with you and to tell you some things about your future, the immediate future, the next couple of months as a matter of fact. So you just sit back and relax, Taurus, and enjoy the journey here with me. I've been a professional astrologer for over 40 years now. I've got 30,000 clients worldwide and tens of thousands of students worldwide as well. My YouTube videos have had over 250,000 viewings now, and they've only been going for just over 12 months. So it's nice to have this opportunity, Taurus, to be able to talk with you, and you, Taurus, are to be congratulated. Not because you're a Taurus, but because you're a Taurus who is interested in astrology. Now that means that you are on the crest of the wave of evolution, because astrology, meditation and reincarnation is the basis of the new dispensation that's coming into the mind of man. And the teachings about astrology, meditation and reincarnation are truth. Nothing can hold back truth, Taurus. And so the fact that you are interested in astrology means that you are just one step away perhaps from being interested also in meditation, and one step away from being interested in reincarnation. The three pillars of truth about the nature of reality and our place in that reality. So it's nice to be able to have this opportunity to be able to talk with somebody who's on the crest of the wave of evolution. So congratulations, Taurus, for making that step, and obviously you've developed this in past lives as well. So what I'm going to do for you on this video here, Taurus, is to first of all tell you a few things about yourself, about your nature and the type of circumstances and conditions that you experience on a lifetime basis. And then I'm going to be looking at the movements of the minor bodies, which are the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, through the houses of your horoscope over the next 2 months of September and October 2014. And I'll also look at the slower moving bodies, Jupiter and Saturn, through the houses of your horoscope in the next 2 months as well, and the impact that that will have upon you. And there's other things that I'm going to cover as well to help you to become more of who you really are. So it's nice to have this opportunity to be able to share some truth with you about the nature of reality and your place in that reality. Now you, Taurus, are Venus ruled. Now that means that you're a good looking person, a good looking sort, or a good looking guy, and you're Venus ruled, so you're a very loving person. And you are an earth sign, so you're very practical and down to earth, very materialistic, a little bit materialistic there, Taurus. And you have a love of beauty, and you have a love of the things of the earth, and you love rich food, so you probably pack on the pounds quite easily unless you restrain yourself. And what else? You're a little bit possessive and jealous in your nature, but you're a very loving person. You've got a great deal of love to give. You love music and artistic things. Now, you seem to have money coming in from two distinct separate sources. It's either your spouse is working and therefore you got the money coming in from your work and your spouse's work, or else you've got money coming in from your job or your business, and perhaps you've also got investments that bring in money for you. So there's a distinct sense of duality there as far as your income is concerned. And you have a tendency to dwell in the past. You've got a very vivid imagination, Taurus, And you love walking around near the water or driving around near the water. Probably you like riding a bicycle around near the edge of a river or along the waterfront somewhere. Or you like driving the car alongside the water. You're just attracted towards the water. Now, your home, Taurus, is an open place for everybody in the neighbourhood. All the neighbours' children find their way into your home, and it's a welcome place for also your neighbours and relatives to come and spend time there as a family. And so that's an aspect of your nature as well. You have a love and a pride as far as the home is concerned. The home is your castle, and you really enjoy entertaining around the home. You love family gatherings, and you're very proud when it comes to the interior decorations in the home. Even if you've got a humble home, you always make the most out of it by nice furnishings, and you keep the place nice and clean, and you have nice paintings on the wall and little statuettes and knickknacks around the place and so forth. And you always enjoy social activities as a family. So you like going out to restaurants and places of amusement. You love any involvement with the children and their sporting interest and recreational interests. You love to do that as a family. And you seem to enjoy also a lot of social activities, perhaps with people that you work with, Taurus. You have a love of domestic pets, and you possibly are involved with domestic pets on the social side of life. So you go to dog shows and cat shows and things like that quite feasibly. In other words, some of your social life can revolve around domestic pets. Now, you enjoy a lot of social activities with people that you work with, and it's quite feasible that you did start a relationship with someone that you work with. At some time in life, you might have even met your spouse through the job, and you enjoy going out to restaurants and places of amusement and things like that with the people that you work with. Your job perhaps even takes you into that sort of arena where you are dealing directly with the general public, Taurus. Your spouse is a highly sexed person, and your spouse is a bit of a mystery package as well. So that there's aspects of their nature that you find hard to understand and to comprehend. But that's something that you're attracted towards, is your spouse being a bit of a mystery package, hard to unravel the mystery of that person. Now, what I'm going to do for you now, Taurus, is I'm going to lay out on a timeline where the planets were, where the Sun, Mercury, Venus and Mars were on the 1st of September. And then it's on a timeline so that the conditions that I portray there at the beginning of the month will remain static and the same until there's a change in one of those planets. And one of those planets then moves into a different house of your horoscope and will bring about different conditions and circumstances. And we go on like that with the Sun, Mercury, Venus and Mars through the 2-monthly period on a timeline telling you when there's a change in the location of that particular body. So now on the 1st of September, Taurus, the Sun is in the 5th house of your horoscope. So that means that there's a focus at this particular time upon your social life. Matters relating to the children come to the fore. Also, Mercury is in the 5th house of your horoscope as well on the 1st of September. So that means that there's a lot more communication with people on the social side of your life, and a lot more communications perhaps involving children. There can be a lot more social involvements with people that you work with, and there can even be business dinners and things like that, or dinners related to work and that sort of thing at the early part of the month. Now, Venus is in the 4th house of your horoscope to start the month off with. And when Venus is in the 4th house of your horoscope, there's a great deal of social activities around the home, more than usual, social activities involving parents. And there can be a great deal of love being expressed around the home environment and with the family unit, with Venus in the 4th house of your horoscope. Mars is in the 7th house of your horoscope, so that means that your spouse is a little bit dominant. If you've got a spouse or a partner, they're a little bit more dominant than usual with Mars in the 7th house, so they can be a little bit assertive and argumentative in their nature during this time. And there can be a little bit of back and kidney trouble with Mars in the 7th house. A little bit of pain in the back there, and potential for bladder trouble or kidney trouble with Mars in the 7th house. Now, the first change that we come to, Taurus, is Mercury moves into the 6th house of your horoscope on the 3rd of September. And when Mercury moves into the 6th house, it's a time when you can be going for interviews for a job if you're in the market for a new job. There's also communications more so with people that you work with than what you normally would. There can be a lot of communication with health and dietary matters that come to the fore during this particular time. On the 6th of September, Venus moves into the 5th house of your horoscope. And when Venus is in the 5th house of your horoscope, if you're in the market, Taurus, for a romance or a love affair, then certainly that's the time when it can start, where around the 6th of September. Venus in the 5th house of your horoscope also makes you quite fortunate in regard to speculation and gambling, so it's a good time to buy a lotto ticket or something like that, or to have a bet on a horse race or something of that nature, or to go to the casino and try your luck at the casino. Now, with Venus in the 5th house, there's a lot more social involvements with children and a lot of involvement socially, going out to restaurants and places of amusement and things like that. On the 14th of September, Taurus, Mars moves into the 8th house of your horoscope. And when Mars is in the 8th house of your horoscope, there's a noticeable increase in your sex drive. There's also a potential for arguments and conflicts with your spouse about the expenditure of money. So they can be a little bit wanting to spend money and you're wanting to hang on to it and that sort of thing. So there can be conflicts there to do with joint finances. And with Mars in the 8th house of your horoscope also, Taurus, your addictions are going to be brought out into activity. So aspects of your nature that you feel, that you thought that you'd let go of and got rid of, are going to come back to the fore when Mars is in the 8th house of your horoscope, so that your addictive patterns of behaviour come to the fore, whether it's addictions to alcohol or drugs, or overdoing it with the sexual side of life, or overdoing it with rich food, or whatever your addictions are. All of us have got our own particular addictions, Taurus. And I just heard you say that you don't have any addictions. You're not being truthful with yourself there, are you? Now, the 24th of September, Taurus sees the Sun move into the 6th house of your horoscope, and that sees a lot more focus upon the job. It's a good time for job interviews if you're in the market for a job. And with the Sun in the 6th house of your horoscope, there's a focus upon health and dietary matters. There's some improvement. If you're in any trouble with regard to your health, there can be some improvement. When the Sun goes into the 6th house, the Sun is full of vitality and enthusiasm and energy there. You'll probably want to be getting out and about with friends from work and that sort of thing too, with that sort of placement. On the 28th of September, Mercury moves into the 7th house of your horoscope, and that sees you having a lot more communication with your spouse, probably about things that you've got in as a bit of disharmony there between the two of you, but you bring them to the fore. when Mercury is in the 7th house. So you start to communicate a little bit more about the differences of opinion on this and differences of opinion on that and so forth, so that you can bring conflicts to the fore and resolve those conflicts. There can be legal matters come to the fore, and disputes and things like that can come to the fore. Now on the 30th of September, Taurus, Venus moves into the 6th house of your horoscope, and that begins a cycle of intense social activities with people that you work with. It's a very good time for job interviews, because the person who's interviewing you will take a particularly happy attitude towards you and your presentation and so forth. So Venus in the 6th house is also good for you to do with domestic pets. Social involvements can revolve around domestic pets. And there's romance can spring from the job as well. Now on the 5th of October, Mercury goes retrograde. Now let me just explain what retrograde means. Is that the planets don't actually go backwards, but they go backwards apparently in relationship to the way that the Earth is moving around the Sun. So when the Earth is moving around the Sun faster than Mercury, it makes that Mercury appear as if it's going backwards, and that's what's called retrograde. Now when that happens, Taurus, it means that it impacts negatively upon your finances and also upon your social life and matters relating to children. So therefore there'll be problems will come up from the past to do with money matters and decisions that have been made about money, and there'll also be things that are to do with the children and your social life and your romantic life and that sort of thing. Problems from the past seem to project themselves into your reality when Mercury is retrograde in your horoscope. Now on the it does go direct. It does go direct again, so that those problems will disappear on the 26th of October. So just bookmark that one as an important date when that sort of problems that I've just portrayed for you do disappear and solve themselves. Now on the 24th of October, Taurus, the Sun moves into the 7th house of your horoscope, giving your spouse, if you have one, or your partner, a bit more of a sociable disposition, a bit more of a sunny disposition, what you might say. And there's a lot more desire to get out and join the general public in parades and shopping malls and things like that. So there'll be that tendency there, and a lot more social involvements with your spouse and so forth. So they might drag you to an office party, or they might drag you to some social function involving the work or something like that, for example. Now that just about completes things there. No, Venus actually moves into the 7th house on the 26th of October. So with Venus going into the 7th house, your spouse is going to be more loving, your partner will be more loving, and you'll have a strong desire to get out to restaurants and places of amusement where you can be with the general public that much more. It's a good time to strengthen relationships, and it's a good time to expect that your partner will be more loving. And the last one that we come to, Taurus, is on the 27th of October, Mars moves into the 9th house of your horoscope. Now when Mars is in the 9th house of your horoscope, Taurus, it's not a good time for travel. It's not a good time. There can be accidents whilst travelling. Stresses and tensions over religious differences, so it's not a good time to pick a fight with somebody about religious or spiritual matters. There's conflicts there potentially with in-laws. And also arguments and conflicts can arise to do with legal matters. So just watch out for legal matters, differences of opinion over religious matters, problems with in-laws generally, and it's not a good time for travel when Mars is in the 9th house of your horoscope, Taurus. Now we go to the impact of Jupiter in your horoscope. Now Jupiter is a major beneficial influence, Taurus, in our life, wherever it sits. It is the embodiment of the second ray of love wisdom. And Jupiter is a tremendous beneficial influence in the house that it sits in during that 2-month period. And Jupiter is in the 4th house of your horoscope. That's the house of the home, the family, and the domestic side of life. So it's a very good time to change residence if you wanted to. It's a good time to buy property. You can anticipate that there'll be social activities with parents if they're alive. And a parent could travel overseas sometime in that period with Jupiter in the 4th house. It's a very good time to try and bring things to successful conclusions that have been drawn out for a while. And with Jupiter in the 4th house, there's a lot more social involvements with family and a lot more social involvements around the home. So that's a very good time for you. But also I want to tell you something else about Jupiter and what it's doing in that 2-month period of September and October, Taurus, because this is very important. Jupiter actually moves 10 degrees just in that 2-month period. And that 10 degrees is from 10 degrees Leo to 20 degrees Leo. Now, Taurus, if you have any planets at all in that 10-degree location in your horoscope, any of your planets, it means that Jupiter is going to form a conjunction with those planets in that 2-month period, and you want to know about that. So if you haven't had your horoscope done by me, submit your birth details through the Your Horoscope page of my website, www.mysteryofsirius.com, and I'll be able to tell you then, when I send you your horoscope chart, what planets that you have in that particular location. And so that means that when you have a conjunction in that 2-month period from Jupiter to one of the planets in those locations, that is a very good time for you in particular areas of your life. And you'll learn that also from your horoscope chart that I send you. That's all done for you free of charge. And Saturn is a major detriment in our horoscope wherever it sits. And Saturn takes 2.5 years, Taurus, to transit through a particular house of your horoscope. So Saturn is sitting in the 7th house of your horoscope at the moment, and it has been for the last 12 months or so. And with Saturn in the 7th house of your horoscope during this 2 months, and for the last 12 months, you've noticed some problems in relationships. Your spouse has had some ill health. You've had difficulties with the back and the kidneys and the bladder. With Saturn in the 7th house, it hasn't been a good time as far as work for your spouse is concerned, and it's been an unsettling time in your relationships and partnerships generally with Saturn in that 7th house of your horoscope. Now, Saturn moves 5 degrees in this 2-month period of September and October, Taurus. Now, Saturn moves from 18 degrees Scorpio to 23 degrees Scorpio in this 2-month period. Now, if you have any planets in that 5-degree location in your horoscope, which you will find out from the chart when I send it to you, then that's a terrible time for you as far as those planets and what they stand for in your horoscope is concerned. So you want to know about that. You want to know about that so that you can plan and you can watch out for problems that can arise in those particular areas governed by those planets that are in those degrees. So this is what the benefit of astrology is. To be forewarned is to be forearmed, Taurus. And that's what the idea is of having your horoscope done, so that you can know where these planets are and whether they're hitting any of your planets in your horoscope and what sort of impact that's going to have. So all of that is explained to you in the chart that's sent to you about the location of any planets in that particular area of your horoscope. So that gives you an idea there of what's going on in your life, Taurus, during this 2-month period of September and October. So you've got an opportunity now to take advantage, by having a horoscope done by me, to take advantage of the beneficial influences and impacts of Jupiter during this period, and also any detrimental aspects there formed by Saturn. You've got an opportunity now to take advantage of that, astrologically speaking. Now, where do you go from here? This is just a little bit of a wrap-up to inspire you to start looking at things from a different perspective. Well, what I want to achieve for you, Taurus, is I want to achieve for you to develop spiritual perception. Now, what does that mean? What that means is to start seeing and perceiving life from a spiritual perspective. And I am here to help you to achieve that. Now, how do you do that? How do you start seeing things from a spiritual perspective? Well, really, from my perspective, I can't understand how anybody can see life from any other perspective than a spiritual perspective. Because if there's any truth at all in what I've just told you about your personality, I've just told you about the conditions and events that you're experiencing in September and October in your life, if there's any truth at all about any of that, then it means that science is not correct. When science says that the planets are just blobs of matter out there in space and can't possibly have any impact upon your life here on Earth. Well, if your personality description that I've given you has any validity at all, and if the conditions and circumstances that I've just portrayed for you have any validity at all, then it's time for you to start perceiving life from a spiritual perspective, because that means that the planets are not just blobs of matter as science says, Taurus, but they are intelligent forces, energies that are there as the hands of a cosmic clock. And that as they move through the houses of your horoscope, they impact upon your life by forming conjunctions with the planets in your horoscope and aspecting things in your horoscope other than conjunctions, and bringing about events and conditions in your life. So in that respect, they are the hands of a cosmic clock. And not only that, Taurus, it puts intelligence into the whole scheme of things. How can we say that the planets are there having this impact without intelligent design behind the whole scheme of things? So how can you look at life without looking at it from a spiritual perspective? Because science cannot create one thing that's alive. They can clone things, and they can clone animals and things like that, but they can't create one petal of a flower, let alone a flower. They can't create anything that's living. All they can do is work with that which is already there with life in it. And this life doesn't just happen. To say that life on Earth here occurred as a result of some explosion out there in the universe, and that through some non-logical state of evolutionary process that we have all of these things that are here in this world, to say that all of that happened as a result of an explosion in space there is the same as saying that a Boeing 747 occurred as a result of an explosion in an engineering workshop. That's the same thing as saying that the Boeing 747 all just fell into place as a result of an explosion in an engineering workshop. So when you go and look at your fingerprints, why, if we just evolved, why do we all have individual fingerprints? What's the evolutionary purpose of having individual fingerprints? What's the evolutionary purpose of having an iris that's different from everybody else's iris? You see what I'm saying to you, Taurus, is that everything is spiritual. Everything has intelligence behind it. And so you can get to know this intelligence. You can get to know God, Goddess, all that is. You've lived hundreds of lifetimes to get where you are today. You didn't just pop in as your intelligence. You're very intelligent. That's why you're interested in astrology. But you didn't just pop in as a fully fledged human being in this incarnation. No, you've got a long history. Long history going back at least 90,000 years. And I would speculate a lot longer than that in previous solar systems. But you have lived hundreds of lifetimes to get where you are today. Well, why don't you remember your lifetimes? Well, because if you remembered all the things that you've done, you're bad enough in this life trying to forget all the naughty things that you've done, right? Imagine if you had to remember everything that you'd done in all your lifetimes. Oh, by golly, you'd be full of guilt and shame and fear and anxiety and doubt and insecurities and so forth. So, yes, it's time for you to recognize that everything is spiritual and to start seeing life from a spiritual perspective. And I'm happy to aid you in achieving that perspective, Taurus, by doing your horoscope number 2. For only $10, I send you a 20-page printout which tells you where all of your planets are. You see, because you're not just your sun sign or your rising sign. Your moon rules your emotions, Mercury rules your mind, Venus rules your love nature, Mars rules your energy levels, Jupiter rules your higher mind, Saturn rules your practicality and organisational ability, Uranus rules your intuition, Neptune rules your spirituality, and Pluto rules your transformation capabilities. So all of these planets are in certain locations in the heavens at the time that you took your first breath. That means that you are an individual. There won't be another person born with that same location, Taurus, for another 25,000 years. So you're quite an individual. You're quite a unique individual. And don't you want to know about that? Don't you want to know what test that you've set for yourself in this lifetime? Because where the planets are in your horoscope and the houses that they all sit in and the relationship that they form with each other, Taurus, all determine what qualities, principles and values that you're in the process of developing in this particular lifetime. Don't you want to know about that? Don't you want to know what tasks that you've set for yourself on higher dimensions together with your higher self before you came into this incarnation? Don't you want to know how well you've done in past lives in developing principles and values within yourself? Look, I could go on here forever, Taurus, about my enthusiasm for God, Goddess, all that is. They love you and they know your name. And you, Taurus, have all of the properties, all of the qualities and all the powers of God and Goddess inside of yourself now. Your task is to recognize that fact and unfold those powers. And that, Taurus, takes eternity. So you're always coming home, but you never get home. So for only $10, I'll do your horoscope number 2, a 20-page printout all about you that tells you where all of your planets are, which houses that they sit in, what that means, what aspects that they form with each other, and what they mean, and how you're doing in this growth process called evolution and reincarnation. So I can't talk any longer because it will go over 30 minutes and I'm just too enthusiastic. I'm likely to explode here, Taurus. So go to my website, submit your birth details. I'm happy to do your horoscope for you free of charge. Send that to you together with the link for all of my 120, 130 odd videos that I've done that'll help you to understand more about the nature of reality and your place in that reality and to develop that spiritual perception. Oh, for God's sake, shut up, man. I can't shut up because I'm too enthusiastic about what God and Goddess have given us and what powers that they've given us inside of ourselves to magically create our reality in accordance and compliance with our conscious choice, Taurus, instead of our subconscious choice through our raw materials, our attitudes, our beliefs, our thoughts, our feelings, our decisions and our choices. Everybody's got the same raw materials, Taurus, and we mould and shape them into our events and conditions in our life through 3 tools. Nobody has any different tools. And those tools are our desire, our imagination and our expectancy. So we mould and shape those raw materials into all the events and conditions of our life. Nobody's doing it to you, Taurus. God and Goddess are not punishing you. They never punish. So it's time now for you to understand that you have a relationship with God and Goddess. It might be a relationship of denial or avoidance. But you have a relationship there with God and Goddess, and they love you and they know your name and they want you to become all that you can be and more. And I'm here to help you to do that. So submit your birth details, let's have some fun together, let's grow together. And I've got 12 CDs out of my first book, What Really Matters, on astrology, meditation and reincarnation, using my voice with all of the text that's in that beautiful book, and backing music and everything, and I take in and out of meditation and stuff like that, and it's a lot of fun, and you'll grow and reach and stretch and become more of the giant that you truly are, Taurus. And I'll send you those 12 CDs when you apply for your horoscope chart. I send that to you free of charge. So I'm not interested in your money. $10 for a 20-page printout, that's nothing. That's a lot more work involved in that for me than is worth $10. That's just there so that I can handle the workload, that's all. If I did it for free, I'd have thousands of people wanting that done. So it's nice to be able to talk with you, and I look forward to working further with you should you decide to take me up on all of this. Thank you.